timeout after the Crimson Tide got off to a 6-0 start. Large in part to the former Bulldog, Sophie Agee. She's got 3 aces. Make it 4!
Wow, Sophie Agee just on a run here. She's got 4 aces, forced 2 overpasses. So really, 6 of Alabama's 7 points can be credited to her tough serving back at the service line tonight.
She goes at Schmitz, and the first point of the match for the Bulldogs goes to Rebecca Walk, just over 2 kills per match.
You can tell Mississippi State needed that. They got a good pass and immediately took advantage of it, finding middle Walk, who did a great job of putting that ball away in the court.
Snaps a 7-0 run for the Tide to begin the match. Keyshot, Palmer tried the tool to block. A set through the middle, Chase Campbell's first touch. Keyshot off the back set. Palmer hits the antenna. And the second point of the set for the Dogs.
And the first real good rally that we've gotten tonight after those tough serves from Agee. Both teams look like they're just settling in, kind of still getting warmed up into this match here.
Low dig for Mele Corral Blagojevich. Paris Thompson. Cecilia Harness with other ideas. Palmer turned back at the top. Walk and Newsome make their presence felt.
That was a beautiful block for Mississippi State, staying patient on that ball. That was an out-of-system point, which means the set was a little higher. They didn't have that fast tempo on the Tide side that they usually try to keep. Beautiful job by Newsome setting up that block, being strong up there at the net.
Low line drive serve and an ace for Corral Blagojevich.
That's a tough top spin serve that she's got back there. You see she tosses that ball nice and high with spin on it. And if the float serve is a knuckleball, this is the fastball.
Thompson to end the run. Nice dig on that back end by McKenna Yates. Palmer goes at Yates and ends the 4-0 Bulldogs rally.
Great swing by Palmer, and I think such a good idea to turn that ball back down the line. She tried to do that a few points ago, had a hitting error, but went straight back to it. I love seeing players who know what the game plan is, know what the opponent's defense is presenting, and even if they maybe make a mistake, no, I can still go back to that. I can complete the skill, and I can score.
Keyshot set in tight, possibly mistimed with Towns. And Walk registers her second kill.
Another great swing for Walk. I think it's so smart that the Bulldogs are making an effort to establish their middles early. Basically, all that means is as soon as they have some good passes at the beginning of the match, they're setting their middles so that Alabama's defense can't just overlook them and can't look to the outsides expecting the ball to go there.
Palmer with some velocity. Too much for Harness to handle.
That time Palmer swings cross court. She was hurt at the beginning of this season and waiting to be able to come back from the injury. You know, there's that last couple weeks oftentimes as an athlete after you've been injured where you feel better, but the doctor still says, like, you can't play quite yet. And I heard stories from Coach Reed of Palmer coming in her office and saying, please, coach. And Coach Reed was like, I've got a lawsuit on my hands if something goes wrong, so we're going to wait for the doctor's okay.
Sounds like you've lived through that a couple times in your playing career where you had to do some convincing of yourself.
Once or twice. I had toe surgery, which sounds crazy, but had to miss a little bit. And remember, I just finally couldn't take it anymore, and I went for a run. It wasn't under the coach, but I went for a run. And when I got back, my white sneakers were red. Let's just say that. Definitely should have waited for the doctor's okay.
Long attempt for Newsome. This early first set has been defined by some runs, not to put pun intended, but Alabama 7-0 to start the match. Mississippi State has gotten a run of its own on a 4-0 run. It appears that Rashinda Reed is contemplating whether or not to challenge that last point on a touch.
Coach Reed does grab the challenge card, so Alabama arguing that they did not touch the ball before it traveled out of bounds. And so we've got our first challenge of the match. Like you said, some runs. The other thing, we're not seeing a ton of big kills so far. There's 4 kills for Mississippi State, 3 for the Tide. And that's, 7 in total, 16 points into this match. A lot of the points of this match have been scored at the service line or scored off of some errors. And both teams are going to try to eliminate that for sure. This replay here should show us what we're trying to look at. Did that ball touch either blocker, Kayla Keyshock, or back row defensive specialist, Rapetti, before traveling out of bounds? From that angle, it didn't look like it to me.
We've made the analogies from that definitive touch to keep the call on the floor as a confirmed call. 2 challenges in college volleyball to those new to the match. If you win your first challenge, you retain that challenge.
It looks like one of the referees having a conversation with Coach Reed here. I'm really interested in what the conversation is, because that's usually not necessary after the call has been made and the challenge card has been pulled. And it looks very clear from the replays that we've seen. Obviously, Coach Reed wants to win this challenge call. I'd be very interested to see what the final call is at this point. I've never seen a challenge that there's this many conversations between referee staff and coaches.
Still discussing what the call could be as to whether or not it'll be overturned or confirmed.
These challenges, regardless, give the coaches a moment to have a conversation with their team. I know that both Coach Daugherty and Coach Reed will want to be able to discuss with their team. That ball is called out, so the call will be overturned. Coach Reed gets to keep that challenge, and that will send Paris Thompson back to the service line.
Possible momentum-changing call. Instead of 9-7, Bama surges out to a 4-point lead. Here's a Notre Dame transfer, Thompson. Her first matchup against the Bulldogs. Newsome with the soft touch. Somehow flipped over the top and kept alive. Only for a moment, both Bertucci and Rapetti laid out to keep that afloat, but the Bulldogs finished the point.
That was a great effort, but what a beautiful tip right there for the Bulldogs. That was such a smart move there by Newsome, switching up the flow of the game, changing the pace, trying to play that cat and mouse game, going for the hard swing, then the off-speed shot.
Off the back set, Towns picks on Yates.
Towns that time going behind her setter. Kayla Keyshock did a great job of executing what's called the slide footwork, where you kind of run almost after the ball and take off one foot. It's the same footwork as a layup in basketball. We're all about the other sport metaphors, similarities right now.
That a bit long. Basketball, definitely a big ticket item here in Tuscaloosa. #2 men's program and a top 25 women's program.
That's right. This is an exciting time of year when basketball is getting started, football's going, you've got all the fall sports. You can definitely, in the athletic department, feel the energy in the air.
Walk off fingertips. Deposits her 3rd kill.
That was another great swing by Walk, who's got to be hitting over 500 at this point, getting a kill on almost every attempt she's had. That brings her to 750, 3 kills on 4 attempts.
The only Mississippi-born Bulldog on this Bulldogs team. Keyshock off the back set. Campbell picks on that back line and picks up a kill.
Great job by Chase Campbell, who's taken on more of a load and more of a leadership role this season. And Coach Reed has talked a ton about her development. You see she does a great job. She's doing that slide approach as well, going behind setter Kayla Keyshock, jumping off one leg to find open court for the kill.
Free ball flipped over. Mary Neal keeps the play afloat. AG with the velocity.
By Keyshaw going to find AG on the outside, who did just a great job taking care of that ball. Outside hitters oftentimes are the ones getting the junk sets off of passes that maybe aren't quite there. That time, AG able to swing through a hole in the block.
Service error for Keyshaw.
That's a second service error in a row for the Tide. There's nothing that kills momentum like a missed serve right there. So Alabama, if they want to continue to build their lead, has to focus on serving.
Arnis in close, and Walk with another termination.
Walk again. She's just on fire tonight. Alabama's middle blockers have to stay true to their assignment. What that means is it looks like they're getting their hands up as Walk is hitting the ball, but they're not getting their hands up in front of her hitting arm.
Palmer shows off the guns and answers kill for kill. How much of that, Lane, is just timing? How much of that is realizing the positioning of knowing where the hitting arm is specifically?
You know, there's something called eye sequencing and blocking that I at 5'6" never had to work on or get good at. But basically, these blockers, if they're not really good at watching the right things and making sure that they're not just watching the ball, but they're watching the hitter's arm, they're watching the setter's body language, then they can miss their blocking assignments pretty easily.
Since Alabama jumped out to an early 7-0 run, the Bulldogs are on a 12-7 run of their own, only down 2 midway in this first set. Palmer, a bit wide. The Tide are adamant there was a touch.
And they will get that call. It looks like the call was not made by the line judge, but it was made by the officials near the net. Coach Daugherty grabs her challenge card. So this will be the second challenge we've seen this match, this time for Mississippi State, challenging whether or not there was a touch on the ball. So if we get a replay, we'll be looking to see if either of the blockers made contact with that ball before it flew out of bounds off the hands of Kaylee Palmer here. Let's see. You know, that's a tough angle. It looked to me like Newsome landed with a lot of confidence that she didn't touch that ball. From this angle. And those things can happen so fast. Something I used to notice as a player, sometimes those touches would be easier to hear than they were to see. And so we would be on the court and we'd be like, no, I literally heard it. I know she touched the ball. You heard the hit, then you heard the touch off the block. But you can't referee, you can't make those calls off the sound, unfortunately. We haven't gotten, our replay technology hasn't gotten quite that good. The ball's not mic'd up yet.
Second challenge of this first set between the two teams. Well, if that's the case, then officials just have to get better hearing. I know there's obviously the sight component where you can see
that's
things
right.
and see that better, but if that's the case, then you might have to have the ear test or at least the audible test.
That's right. I know. Most definitely. Looks like there's another conversation being had right now with the second official and Coach Daugherty Dennis.
At the moment, it's a 3-point Bama lead midway through the first set. We take another look at the play in question.
So we're looking to see if any of the fingers off that number 6 Newsome right there, if they move or snap back at all. Oh, well, maybe that was just the tip of the pinky, which is all you need. But if I'm turned there, Mississippi State will get the point, bring the score to 14-13. Alabama still in the lead. Mississippi State now with the serve.
Both coaches successful in their opening challenge attempts. Julie Daugherty Dennis retains her second challenge. Earl Blagojevich nearly with her second ace. Walk down the middle, cross court.
Walk again. I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Mississippi State doing a great job of finding Walk in transition. I believe that's her 5th kill on the night. Hitting .833 at this point.
Her match leading 8th kill. Campbell off fingertips. Shackelford kept it alive, and it's finished by Newsome at the precipice.
You know, if I had any notes for the Tide at this point, it would be all their front row players need to tighten up a little bit. They're looking pretty undisciplined. We saw just a few moments ago, Sophie Agee forced an overpass, and the front row just let the ball land. That never happens at this level. And right now they're missing blocking assignments. That time losing the joust.
Harris Thompson levels us back up at 15.
And Malia Moore, a serving specialist, will check in for Alabama, head back to the service line in place of Chase Campbell.
Second match of Moore's senior season, made her debut against Florida on Sunday, and she's got an ace.
Great job by Moore going back to the service line and forcing a tough float ball across the net. This is one of the hardest positions, I think, in the sport, just from a standpoint of you have one job. It's easy to put so much pressure on that skill. That time Moore misses into the net. But coming off the bench to go in and just serve, that takes a lot of mental fortitude, and Moore put a great ace up on the board for the Tide.
5 aces for Alabama to this point. Palmer elevates and detonates.
Great swing by Palmer. She's done a great job tonight showing off just how much is in her toolbox. She's able to swing cross court, swing down the line, see open holes, what's in front of her while she's in the air. That's a beautiful kill.
Here's Natalie Rapetti, the UCSD transfer out of Big West Country. Towns climbs the ladder.
Towns doing that time exactly what you are expected to and supposed to do as a front row player when your server forces the overpass. That was a beautiful job of doing a just quick, you don't have that long approach on an overpass, but you just get up in the air and snap your wrist, put the ball down. Great job by Jordan Towns.
Shackelford. Bertucci goes down to dig it out. Thompson runs into the block, out of bounds. She tools it perfectly to put the Tide up 3.
That was a great rally for the Tide. Francesca Bertucci in the middle of there with a beautiful dig, keeping it up. And a great job by Paris Thompson just continuing to swing, that time finding the kill on her second swing of the rally.
Off the set and close, Arissa Smith detonates.
We've talked a lot about Rebecca Walk tonight, the middle for Mississippi State. But opposite her, Arissa Smith, that time doing a great job putting that ball down. Those quick attacks off of a perfect pass are one of the toughest things to defend in the sport.
And that's something, too, that Julie Dorothy Dennis mentioned earlier in the year when she was asked by media about what the biggest thing that fuels Mississippi State is. And she was quick to point out the middles and getting the middles involved, as that's a for contact point to the Bulldogs.
100%. I mentioned earlier that missed serves can be one of the quickest things to kill momentum, but anything highly offensive production from a middle can be one of the quickest things to build momentum.
Thompson tools the block.
Thompson, that time it looked like off of the head of Arissa Smith, which just, can we talk about how athletic these girls are and tall? That means that Arissa Smith jumped so high on that block, she got her whole head above the net. I would love to have been able to do that once, but if I got hit in the head, it was like 20 feet deeper into the court.
And another ace. This time, Thompson joins the club. And it forces Julie Dorothy Dennis to expend her second timeout of set 1. Lane, serving was such a big highlight for Alabama in the loss against Florida. It was service aces galore between the Gators and the Crimson Tide with a combined 15 errors between the two teams in those 3 sets in Gainesville. So far, the Tide have really checked in and dialed in from that line. What's the biggest thing you've really noticed with the composure for Bama so far in this first set?
You know, early service line, and I remember specifically talking to Coach Reed on a call a couple months ago about what does she tell her team when they go back to the service line. And the number one thing is she wants her players to be aggressive, but she wants her players to be smart. So they go back to the service line with the intention of winning the point, not just starting the point. They're not just trying to get the ball in. They're trying to be aggressive, find a hole in the court. But I think this team has grown in maturity a lot. So now they know when they go back there when to be aggressive and when to know, hey, the girl in front of me or the 2 girls in front of me missed their serve. This is a serve I need to get in. And then if I get a couple in, we get a few more points on the board, then let me go back to going for the score. You see right here, 200.
Been aggressive on that back line, 4 points away from taking set 1 here at home against Mississippi State, a program that has won 12 straight sets against Alabama going back to February of 2020. Here's Thompson. Off the joust and close, and it drops in.
Another overpass forced by the serve. This time Paris Thompson for the Tide forces that overpass. Alabama's serving really has won them this set. If there was a stat that showed not just aces, but forced overpasses, I think it would prove a lot of where Alabama's points have come from tonight.
Smith goes up and climbs the ladder and goes at both AG and Towns.
Smith that time scoring off of the block, which is an improvement for Alabama. Both middles for Mississippi State have seemed to pretty much have their way at the net with no real challenge from the Tide block. So a great swing by Smith, a great kill.
Harness. Carly Schmidt goes at fingertips and picks up her first kill of set 1.
That was a great swing by Schmidt, and I think such a smart job trying to go between that block. Again, Alabama's block being another part of the storyline tonight. You know, if we talk about their serving for where Alabama's 22 points come from, Alabama's blocking could be where a lot of Mississippi State's points come from. They're not super disciplined up there. They don't look like they're quite there. Their timing's a little off. They're a little slow behind the ball. So that's something I know that Coach Reed's going to look to improve to finish out this set and go into set 2.
Rashinda Reed uses her first time out. Technically, what have you seen from the Alabama block that could be improved or something that you've kind of noticed for the first time today?
I know I mentioned this earlier, but the number one thing being they've got to put up a challenge against Mississippi State's middles. They've got to put something in between Mississippi State's hitters, and specifically their middles, and their own back row defensive players. Right now, it looks like they've been able to just swing wherever they want. So that would be my first thing. And then my second thing is do a better job of being not just up with your hands above the height of the net, but pressed over the net. So there's a technical term in blocking where it's not just about getting your hands up as high as you can jump, but also pressing or penetrating the net, meaning you're actually reaching onto the opponent's side of the net to ensure that if the ball hits your hands, it lands in their court.
Late here in set 1. The Bulldogs over the last handful of seasons, not very good on the road away from Starkville. 1-10 last year with the early win away from home being against the Crimson Tide. This season they've gotten a bit of an upsurge away from Starkville with 4 wins and 7 road matches and an even 500 slate in conference play. AG long on the bid and off of deflection, the point does go to the Tide.
Sophie AG hitting that ball, going what's called high hands, meaning she's intentionally swinging high above the net where the ball would land out if there was no block, but because there is a block, she's intentionally swinging high off the hands of the blockers.
Some miscommunication. Yates of the free ball back over. Campbell off the slide. Schmidt goes long. Was that touched? Yes, it was.
Both offenses doing a good job of taking advantage of their opponent's blocks.
Keshok in close, does it herself, then brings the tie to set point.
Such a smart move by setter Kayla Keshok to go for the dump in that moment. You see she went up with two hands like she was going to set the ball, but then threw it across the net with one. Always keeps the opponent's defense on their toes.
Walk, turn back. Entering today, the Bulldogs had won 12 straight sets against the Tide. Not tonight, as the home side takes set one here inside Foster Auditorium. A lot of set victories for Alabama over the last 4 seasons against Mississippi State. That changes with a set one win for the Tide. Their first set win against Mississippi State since February of 2020. A month before the COVID-19 pandemic. Chase Campbell was the only remaining player from that Alabama recently.
But right now, both teams, hitting percentage-wise, look great. Mississippi State's hitting .458. Alabama's hitting .375. Those are great numbers, but what does that mean? If they're hitting that high, it's still a close set. Alabama actually, with the lower hitting percentage, wins. It means that neither team's defense or block is doing much. So I know both teams are going to try to defensively step it up a little bit. Each team only has one block apiece right now. They're going to try to be a little more disciplined in transition so that maybe there's something that slows these hitters down.
What does being more disciplined in transition look like, specifically if the block is working well?
The easiest way I can say this is, I don't know if you've ever seen maybe in like a younger, less experienced teams play, like a baseball player or a softball player takes a swing and wants to watch their hit go. A lot of teams have a tendency to, after they send the ball across to the other team's side, just kind of watch what's playing out. And actually, they have to be moving their feet as they're watching, taking what they're seeing and letting it dictate where they are, making sure they're keeping the court balanced and they're getting to their defensive reads.
Paris Thompson starts the second set with a bid that goes long, but off a tip gives Bama the lead. There's challenges galore in the first set, and it appears that Julie Doherty-Dennis does not waste any time with taking out the green challenge card.
And all these challenges so far have been off of whether or not the blocker's hands have touched a hit, depending on which team called the challenge. This time the challenge is whether or not Mississippi State's block got a piece of the ball before it traveled out of bounds. Definitely one of the hardest calls to make in the sport. It happens so quickly up there at the net. Hopefully we'll get a replay in the next little bit and maybe get to see an angle of what just happened. Sometimes it can be as minimal as just the slight movement of a finger snapping back. So we see this ball come off of Paris Thompson's hands. You know, it looks from where I'm sitting like that ball traveled straight between the hands of Harness and Smith there, and neither player got. Mississippi State will lose that challenge. I must have totally not seen something that the referee team saw, the official saw, so Chase Campbell will go back to the service line for the Tide.
Well, Lane, if it makes you feel any better, from my vantage point, 2 inches away from where you are and a different monitor from what you were looking at, I thought a pretty similar thought process as well. But Rashinda Reed will definitely take the outcome with the home side up a point.
That's right. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again.
Campbell responds with a service error. These are two teams which, entering today, are near the bottom of the SEC in aces per set. Mississippi State last in the conference and just over an ace per set. Blagojevich with that aforementioned ace. That's her second.
That's a great top spin serve from Blagojevich. That ball, I'm surprised the Alabama backcourt let that land in. Those top spin serves are known to die. They're known to just sneak into the court.
How frustrating is that, especially from a serving perspective? You get an ace and you follow it up with a service error.
You know, from my perspective as a player, there was nothing better than serving an ace and going back to the service line, because I thought, okay, now I'm in those passers' heads. So really all I have to do is get the ball in, and they're much more likely to mess up on the pass than if I hadn't just served an ace. So it's pretty frustrating.
Thompson continues to frustrate the Bulldogs, tooling another block. It's her 4th kill.
That's something Thompson's so good at. No matter what's going on in the match, no matter if it's tight, she's good at continuing to just swing heavy. She's got that big arm swing. That ball comes off hard and so fast from her hand.
And another ace. This time it's Natalie Rapetti checking into the party.
Beautiful serve from Rapetti. You saw that ball just die almost out of nowhere. And that's what that float serve can do when executed well. It has almost no spin on it and just drops.
Schmitz puts it where they ain't. And Carly Schmitz got another kill. Number 2 has her 3rd.
That was a smart move by Schmidt. You saw she slowed down her approach. It almost looked like she was making contact with the ball a little bit outside of her sweet spot behind her head, so she decided to go with the off-speed shot.
Jousting close. Thompson. Schmidt off fingertips, kept alive by Towns. Thompson able to end the rally.
Great cross-court swing by Paris Thompson, taking advantage for the half of a rotation where Mississippi State's libero Yates has to come out so that one of her middles can serve. So usually she'd be back there playing defense. She's pretty scrappy. Thompson knew she was out and looked for that spot.
And an error follows the kill from Thompson. Her first year in the SEC by way of Notre Dame and South Bend. Speaking of transfers in their first year in the conference, here's Cecilia Harness. A grad student, made her 3rd stop in Starkville. Schmidt. Nice up from Bertucci to keep the play alive, but only for a moment as she runs into both Shackelford and Walk. As we take a look at some of those transfers that we talked about. Harness out of North Texas this last year. Mele Corral Blagojevich just missed playing in the SEC with Oklahoma. Played in the last Big 12 year with the Sooners last season. Towns spins it wide.
That was setter Kayla Keshok looking to find Towns, and she's worked throughout this season really hard on improving that setter-hitter connection, specifically with her middle. She struggled a little bit early on with Chase Campbell, but overall has improved so much.
Set to AG on the outside. Walk. Flip over the top and dumped in by Keshok.
Such a smart move by Keshok there. She played around with her offense, found different options, and that time had to remind Mississippi State that she's an offensive threat as well. Again, going up with 2 hands, making it look like she's going to set the ball, but dumping it right across to open court.
Schmidt goes down the line, dug out by Rapetti. AG trying to convey for a tip. And to no avail.
It looks like Coach Reed will grab her challenge card. I know, I've never been a coach, but I know as a coach it has to feel like pressure when all 6 players on the court turn and say there was definitely a touch on that ball like the Tide just did. Sophie Agee looked very confident that she'd gotten a piece of the Mississippi State block before that ball sailed out of bounds. So we're again in a challenge looking to see if there was a touch on the ball. We were wrong last time. I'm looking for redemption out here. Someone show me a replay so I can prove my skills.
Here's that replay.
Here we go, looking to see. Okay, I'm looking at the pointer finger. Ooh, I mean, the pointer finger of Rebecca Walk. Maybe it's moving a little bit before that ball goes out of bounds.
The other one, that's what you're saying, okay.
Are you kidding? I'm wrong again.
0 for 2, look at that.
0 for 2 in this set. So the call stands. Coach Reed and the Tide will now lose that challenge.
I'm going to take a wild guess and say in your playing career, you weren't the voice of reason that would convey challenges or non-challenges. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that was the case.
Honestly, no one really ever looks at the back row players for their opinion on what goes on at the front row, so I don't know why I'm talking like I know what I'm talking about.
Agee tips it in off fingertips. She's done exactly what she's done all year.
That was such a smart and athletic move by Agee. What just happened there is she got what's called trap set, meaning that ball was too tight to the net for her to go in and make a real swing. So she did what she can. She actually tipped that ball with her non-dominant hand and found a way to score. So athletic.
Speaking of athleticism, Walk continues to climb the ladder.
I can't say enough about how impressed I am with Walk's hitting, and she's just swinging to every corner of the court, seeing what's in front of her and taking advantage of it. I also have to say, Alabama has to find a response to her, to what she's been able to produce offensively for the Bulldogs.
Shackelford, soft touch. Bertucci lays out to keep it alive. Shackelford off a block. In tight, Smith. Too much to handle.
Smith that time putting the ball away nicely in the middle of a rally. I'm always impressed when the middle is able to be available for their setters in the middle of a chaotic rally like that one was. Smith showing off some athleticism there and getting up off of a two-step approach for the kill.
Campbell shows off the athleticism of her own.
You know, the position middle, it's called specifically middle blocker, as opposed to the other front row positions are called outside or right side hitter, which shows that the priority for those middles is their blocking. But right now tonight, we're seeing how these middles can hit as well. They can play both sides of the ball.
Arthur, speaking of middles, there's Arissa Smith again.
We're just getting a show right now from the middles that they're not just a defensive powerhouse position, but they're also offensive weapons for their teams. You know, something I saw this past summer during the Olympics was the U.S. Olympic team was asked for a TikTok what the most difficult position in volleyball was to play, and almost unanimously the players agreed that it's that middle blocker position.
Blagojevich cross court, hits that back line.
That was a great rally there with some great swings from different players on the court. But like you said, Blagojevich that time finding deep open court, that deep corner open.
Long attempt from Palmer, and the Bulldogs have their largest lead in the match at 4 points.
I would say this set feels very different to last set, just in terms of how long the rallies are lasting.
Long run down. Agee keeps it afloat. And the free ball flipped back over from Bertucci. Smith. Thompson to end the run. dumps it down.
What a great rally and what a great job by the Tide not letting that first pass slow them down at all. The hustle from AG and a huge long pass from Bertucci, but they just stuck in there defensively. And Chase Campbell finding a way to finish off that point and score for the Tide.
Just over the top, and it drops in.
That's that point you can't practice. But wow, are you grateful when it happens for your team, that serve that trickles across the net.
In her graduate season, her last year in college volleyball, career highs on both the offensive and defensive end. She's also become a weapon on that service line. That's her 10th ace of the season, compounded by an error.
You know, her first ace came at a crucial time during Alabama's rival match that they won in 5 against Auburn here in Tuscaloosa. And it was just an electric moment and a huge testament to her leadership and how she shows up for her teammates when it matters.
Thompson runs into the top of the net, and the deflection goes to the Dogs, and Mississippi State equals its largest lead.
Alabama's offense struggling to really get going. They were hitting 375 coming out of that first set. Now they're down to hitting 136.
Blagojevich, low line drive serve. And Palmer tools the block to keep the Tide within 3.
That was a great swing by Palmer. I'm sure as a hitter that those kills where they just ricochet off the block aren't quite as satisfying as the ones that, you know, land maybe 6 feet into the opponent's court. But sometimes when that's what the block presents you, that's what you got to work with. That was a smart move by Palmer to go off the hands.
Schmidt elevates and works the block to her favorite.
Schmidt with a great swing.
Mississippi State, after dropping set 1, out with a vengeance midway through set 2. Up 4 on the home side here inside Foster Auditorium. Join us for the 4th annual CM Newton Classic on Wednesday right here on the SEC Network between number 2 Alabama and preseason All-American Mark Sears as they battle the defending Big Ten titleist, the Illinois Fighting Illini. Coverage begins at 9 Eastern, 6 Central after Florida-Auburn women's runner-up from. Big questions for both programs. Can Mark Sears lead the Crimson Tide to the promised land, and can Purdue get back to the championship game with Zach Edey now in the NBA? Rebecca Walk. I'll tell you what, she's showing off the height and she showed off the skills. That's league worthy today. That's her 7th kill, hitting over 500.
She's doing a great job of making what she's been given work. That time was a little bit of a miss hit, but still she found open court.
Thompson on the approach. Carly Schmidt cross court. One transfer attacks another. Walk in close, goes cross corner.
Walk again, that's her, what, 8th kill on the night? And Alabama will call a timeout. I know Coach Reed wants to have a conversation with her players to try to figure out what they can do to slow down Mississippi State's offense right now that is still clicking. This set hitting 316, coming down a little bit from their hitting percentage in the first set. So much of that has been behind their middle blockers, Walk and Smith, who are just playing lights out tonight.
Rebecca Walk's season high of 12 kills against Notre Dame in early September looks like it is in reach tonight. She's leading the Bulldogs offensively, and offensively, we know what the Bulldogs are able to do with their outside hitters, but today it's been the middle that's really stolen the headlines.
They are just showing off right now their athleticism. You see how high they're jumping, how well they're...
All first mode or whatever the easiest setting is. You don't see that in real life.
No, especially not from that middle position that that is usually only getting looks off of those perfect passes and serve receive or off of some free balls, not quite as often in transition like the outsides are. And Walk and Smith both taking advantage of their opportunities, absolutely really carrying their team's hitting percentage in a lot of ways, both hitting over 600.
A 3-0 scoring run for the Bulldogs as they try to recapture set 2. Towns, can she end the run? She works the block to her favor.
Another middle on the move. Towns that time with that slide approach she saw some success with in the first set. Gets a kill again to put a point on the board for the Tide.
Thompson just over the top. Schmidt jousted the net front and kept alive for a moment by Bertucci. Point does go to the Bulldogs off the net violation.
Bertucci with a great save, but sometimes if a player does something up at the net and slides under the net a little bit too much, that's a net violation as well. It's just a hazard to the opponent players, that opponent front row, and that time Bertucci kept the ball alive but slid under a little too far.
Off the back set, Towns works the slide to perfection.
Again with the slide, that time swinging cross court. That's a beautiful kill from Jordan Towns. You know, one of the toughest things about that approach is they're running in one direction, but often you turn it totally across court, hit in the other. So defensively, you're tempted to follow the movement of the hitter and think they're going to hit there.
AG runs into the block. AG again hits that back line.
Huge swing from AG. That was a great rally for her. Really going out there and just swinging over and over again for her team. That's why she leads her team coming into this match. She had 842 total attempts on the season. That's more than any of the other outside hitters on the court for Alabama or Mississippi State, who are all in the 600s. You can see here's another swing.
AG runs at Corral Blagojevich. Schmidt runs into some traffic. AG off the block, it drops.
AG absolutely fired up tonight, getting another kill for her team. And that will send Mississippi State into the timeout, wanting to have a bit of a conversation, probably in part about how they can slow down their former teammate and player, Sophie Agee, who's going up and battling for the Tide in the front row.
And Lane, that was something too. Last year when Julie Doherty-Dennis was asked by media about what this Mississippi State team could look like in the future and if they're able to replicate success offensively as they had in years past, she mentioned players like Sophie Agee maintaining consistency and being able to have the motor that Agee is able to possess, something that Alabama is now definitely enjoying in her first year in Tuscaloosa. Tied down 3, at one point trailed by as many as 5 in the second set.
Yeah, these hitters for both teams and for every team, you know, in all of volleyball, they're asked a lot of, especially these outsides. They take a ton of swings, have a ton of attempts. When you think about it, this is just what they're doing a couple nights a week in matches. They're getting more attempts in practices. That's more jumps, which means that's more times they're landing, more times they're swinging. So their arms and their legs, I mean, they're at a point in the season where it's really just kind of survival of the fittest. How long can they keep going? How long did that off-season training, how well is it going to pay off? And both these teams have players who are showing off that they're at peak performance. They're not slowing down. They're not, you know, maybe being slowed down by the wear and tear of season at this point.
And that's something to note too, Lane, as well, when you consider that Alabama is the only team in the SEC without a TerraFlex floor, not only in practice settings, but in a game setting as well. That wear and tear could definitely be a higher attribution usage.
Absolutely.
Here's Bertucci. Corral Blagojevich let it go wide. The Dogs are back up 4.
That missed serve going to come at a tough time for Alabama, who had a little bit of momentum going into that timeout. I always say that anytime a coach calls a timeout and out of the timeout, the opposing team misses the serve, that's a coach for the point. So I'll stat that to Coach Darty Dennis there, icing the server a bit.
Put her in the box score.
That's right.
Campbell just long.
That time looking for a touch. Again, Coach Reed hesitating to grab that challenge card, and it looks like she's not going to. Alabama really struggling to get going, and more than anything, struggling to put together a string of points.
Serve from Newsom just gets over the top. Shackelford. Shackelford again, off hands. Campbell is turned back by Walk.
We've talked so much about Rebecca Walk's offense, but we have to talk about her defense. That was a beautiful block from Walk, sticking tough in front of Chase Campbell, who's got a heavy arm swing, and putting that ball right back down. That was a textbook block.
Just under a block per set for Walk entering tonight. Walk with the left hand. She can do it both ways.
Walk mixing up what she does, that time going for the off-speed shot. You see, she didn't love that set that she got, so rather than swinging with her dominant hand, she let that ball pass what we call the window or the sweet spot for hitters, get all the way to that left hand and just throw it across the net. That was athletic, smart move, shows some maturity. A lot of times at this point in the season, that's when you see players start to get more comfortable pulling things like that out of their toolbox.
What's the first thing that you really notice that toolbox being expanded with when you're looking at the offensive thing, especially this late in the season, as you mentioned?
Right now, I think a lot of these players come in knowing how to perform certain skills, not just into college volleyball, but into the season. They've practiced on dummies or in different ways in practice over the summer and over the off season, how to perform different shots, but it's totally different when you've got real hands in front of you as opposed to the like foam boards that sometimes coaches would hold up in front of the players. And so at this point of the season, the biggest thing isn't just who has the biggest toolbox, but who's the smartest about pulling out different skills and knowing how to and when to execute them.
So far, Mississippi State has executed to the tune of a .382 hit percentage in the second set, 3 points away from leveling the matchup at the set apiece. Bulldogs have won 4 straight matches against the Crimson Tide, their longest win streak against a single opponent in the SEC. Alabama, on the other hand, mired in a current 5-match losing streak, the longest of its season. Vying to get back here in the latter stages of this second set.
Mississippi State definitely has the momentum right now. Alabama looking to get a few good swings, good connections under their belt to build momentum.
Campbell off fingertips. Shackelford. Campbell with the jump. Possibly missed time, but gets the finish either way.
You know, that was actually a well-timed block, but what happens as a blocker when the player chooses to go for the tip or the off-speed shot like that is if you're as athletic as Campbell is, you can kind of hang in the air and wait for the ball to get to you because it doesn't come nearly as fast as a full-speed swing, and then throw it back down like she just did.
See, I spoke about it from my point of view, how I'd get up there and I'd just be gassed to try anything else if it looked that way. That point goes to the Bulldogs. But yes, in that sense, for a well-conditioned D1 athlete, it is perfectly executed. Yates back on the line with her Bulldogs 2 points away from taking this second set. Campbell. Free ball, Smith just got it over. Cross-court finish for Palmer.
Palmer's had several heavy swings this match. That one couldn't have been at a better time for her teammates. She did a beautiful job swinging to the deep cross court for Mississippi State. She's had some swings down the line. I think she's grown a ton over the course of this season in knowing when to pull out certain tools, kind of like I mentioned earlier.
Palmer, ×2.
That's a second kill in a row for Kaylee Palmer. That time, just overpowering the block there with a heavy arm swing. Kayla Keyshot doing a good job of getting her hitters different opportunities to swing.
A.G. Long on the ace. If you remember, she started this match with 4 straight aces. It's her third attempt in this set. And the Bulldogs are now at set point. Thompson shoots it long. Off a tip, though, it does go to the tie.
I hesitated for a second, just expecting a challenge card. I don't know why, but no challenge card is pulled. So Chase Campbell will head back to the service line. Great high hand swing for Thompson for the kill for her team.
Harness off the set and close. Smith finishes the second set. 7 kills for Arissa Smith, the team leader in hit percentage. Alabama took set 1. The Bulldogs answer with a set 2 dub. Third set coming your way, all leveled up.
Over.
Thompson is on the service line. What have you noticed from her serves here tonight?
Well, for starters, she's always aggressive at the service line. She always goes for the ace and does a great job with her float serve.
A.G. able to work the fingertips for another kill.
You know, it looks like Alabama has switched their starting lineup around, made some adjustments to hopefully have a better matchup against this Mississippi State team. So in the first set, we saw A.G. and Thompson start in just opposite positions. They have switched right now.
A.G. runs into the block of
That's a great swing by Towns to get Alabama the point. That's something that Alabama struggled to do last set, was to side out quickly. Oftentimes Mississippi State was going on little runs, and Alabama really struggled to do that.
Harness off the set and close. Smith elevates and rises to the occasion.
You saw Chase Campbell look frustrated as she landed off of that block for Alabama because she finally got a hand on a swing from Smith. Slowed it down a little bit, but didn't slow it down enough for one of her backcourt defenders to be able to get a hand on it.
Blagojevich into the net, service error.
That's only the second service error for Mississippi State tonight. Alabama has had 8, which I think was a big part of the story of why set 2 went the way it did for the Tide. Those service errors made it pretty hard for them to go on runs or build any momentum.
Harness off the set and close. Keyshot. Schmitz. Bertucci went down to dig it out. And A.G. whips it long.
That's a second hitting error for A.G. That time going for deep down the line corner, but missing long. Seems like she's still trying to get a feel of exactly where Mississippi State's defenders are in front of her.
Keyshot in close, and a finish for Campbell. Elevating and detonating.
Huge swing for Chase Campbell, and a great job by Kayla Keyshot putting that ball right in Campbell's sweet spot. Beautiful execution from the Tide offense.
Campbell was held in check in Gainesville a few days ago. Only 2 kills in 3 sets against the Gators. That was her 4th kill a moment ago. That wraps the line on the corner bid from Schmidt. Cecilia Harness, in her final year of collegiate volleyball, her 3rd stop in college here in Mississippi State in the SEC. Palmer runs into the block. Despite the soccer skills from AG, it's his finish for Schmitz.
You mentioned CeCe Harness, who's at the service line right now. She's done such a good job of running Mississippi State's offense tonight, finding her middles when she can and still giving her outside Schmidt and Newsome opportunities to swing as well.
Thompson, point to the Tide off the infraction.
That time there was a net call, or a net violation, excuse me, on Rebecca Walk. It can be tough to get up there and try to be an aggressive blocker, but also stay disciplined enough not to make contact with any part of the net on the way up or on the way down. Alabama hoping to take advantage of that unforced error.
Harness Walk, what's new? 10th kill for the grad student.
Another beautiful swing. We've seen her score really all over the court. That time turning it to the right back deep corner, which is one of the hardest parts of the court to defend. Beautiful swing by Rebecca Walk again, and great job by Harness finding her middles over and over.
Thompson, soft touch, off a fingertip, drops in.
Thompson, who's known for her heavy hitting, her quick arm swing that puts so much speed on the ball. I think that was a really smart move by her to go for the off-speed shot. Make sure she's not too consistent with her attacks, so Mississippi State gets too comfortable reading her. It's that cat and mouse game, trying to keep the defense, not knowing whether to stay back, expecting the heavy swing on their heels, or start moving forward for the off-speed shot.
Thompson, this time goes with the fastball.
And that's her bread and butter right there. What a beautiful, tough swing from Thompson. She made contact with that ball really far off the net from the out-of-system play. That assist will go to libero Francesca Bertucci for the Tide.
Service error for Rapetti. I will say Paris Thompson is from Fort Myers, where there are tons of major league teams who have their spring training in Fort Myers every year. The Boston Red Sox most notably, as we take a look at some of the numbers for both Thompson and Walk, both upperclassmen reaching double-digit kills. Blagojevich. Thompson again, this time utilizes the block.
That right there might not have been the most fun kill to watch, but to me, that was Thompson's most impressive kill so far on the match. There was a great dig by Bertucci, keeping the ball alive. Kayla Keyshock-Setter did everything she could just to get there. Did that trap set where the ball was too tight for Thompson to swing. She did the swipe tip for the kill.
Towns off a deflection.
Towns again scoring. That was a great swing in the middle. We're seeing really high production out of both teams' middles, which speaks to how well both teams' backcourt and defensive specialists are defending and keeping the ball in system for their setters.
The four main middles for both teams hitting over 400 apiece at the minimum. Amina Shackelford chips one in from the outside.
That looked like a miss hit, but it's sometimes those miss hits that end up being the ones that score because they're so awkward coming off the hands. As a defender, there were times where I was like, how is that legal? That was so unintentional that I didn't get there, just out of how weird it looked.
Blagojevich cross court.
Kind of similar to Thompson, Blagojevich just has that heavy arm swing and is able to get that ball to land so deep in the court.
AG off a block.
That was a big swing and a big point for Sophie Agee, getting her team a point on the board, oftentimes players think about the sport as mini games to 5. So almost like 5, each set is 5 mini games to 5. And so anytime you're the first team to 5, the first team to 10, that's a big deal.
Campbell trying to do her part to make sure the Tide win the mini game, the 5s. So far, the Tide are up a pair.
It's a great swing from Campbell.
Into the net, service error for Bertucci.
That's another service error for the Tide. And an untimely moment this third set. Neither team really strongly has the momentum in this match. It's definitely up for grabs.
Keshak dumps it over the top.
Another,
that's her third kill.
Another smart move by Keshak, who has been sharing the setter position most of the season with Callie Kiefer for the Tide, who was injured just recently. So she was out this last match against Florida, out this match again. So Kayla Keshak's been running that 5-1 by herself and doing a great job of taking advantage of her offensive weapon.
Second match of the year, Kiefer hasn't been in the lineup for the Tide. Keshak, the Samford transfer, first year here in Tuscaloosa by way of the Bulldogs. Well, you just came from Birmingham not too long ago. Not about, what, an hour up the road, depending on traffic?
Not too far. Definitely depends on traffic and the time of day. But if you time it right, it can take right at an hour, maybe right under if you're speeding a little bit.
It took me 40 minutes. I'm not going to say what speed I was going. I'm just going to say it took me 40 minutes.
There you go.
Hopefully there aren't any law enforcement officers watching. AG. Schmidt goes at Keshak and unleashes the velocity.
That was a great down-the-line swing from Schmidt. Those down-the-line hits are so hard to defend because the ball doesn't travel that far. If you could draw a line from the hitter's hand to where it hits the player, it's so much shorter than those cross-court swings.
Palmer unleashes the howitzer, going cross-court from the pin.
Beautiful swing by Palmer, that time swinging from the left antenna. She usually swings from the right side of the net. But in that rotation, did a great job of taking care of that ball.
AG, she's been money from the service line tonight with a few aces. Schmidt with the soft touch. Gets it in between Palmer and Keshak.
Smart move by Schmidt, mixing up her shots, going for the off speed. She's playing really well tonight, really well as well tonight. We talked about the middles, but she has 8 kills. Alabama gonna now hopefully capitalize on a service error. Malia Moore, the serving specialist, checks in for the Tide.
Her first serve of the match went for an ace. Harness close to the pin. Shackelford flips it over. Thompson. Oh, nice dig from Harness to keep it afloat. Thompson off the block. Thompson towering over the top. Gives the Tide a 2-point cushion. 12 kills for Thompson. 4 off of matching her season high. She's got the home team up midway through set 3. Midway through set 3, Lane, you had noticed something. Mississippi State back from timeouts. Just down a point. Their largest lead, 4 points. Largest deficit to the Tide was once 7. Here's Kaylin Newsom. Well-traveled, the redshirt seniors, a part of her 3rd program with the Bulldogs this season. Thompson Runs into the block, but works it to perfection. 13th kill for Thompson tonight.
Both teams hitting really, really well tonight, hitting over 300. Says two things. One, they're clicking offensively. Two, they're not quite there defensively.
These are two teams entering today who are near the bottom in the SEC in hit percentage as a team. Rebecca Walk is going to help the percentage. She's been terrorizing the Tide all night, over 500 and now 11 kills.
That number just doesn't even seem real. She's leading her team in kills tonight with 11, like you said.
Towns off the slide. Blagojevich playing for the tie. She does just that.
That's a great sharp cross swing. And it really is about how well can these hitters move their body as they're in the air. They jump and then adjust to what they see from the block. That was a beautiful sharp cross shot.
And an ace follows for McKenna Yates. Just her 5th of the season.
That'll give Mississippi State the lead.
One of 5 freshmen for the Bulldogs, Yates, the Florida native. Towns off the slide, runs into Blagojevich. Thompson is denied. Shackelford and Smith combined for the stuff.
Mississippi State's block definitely figuring something out coming out of that timeout. Alabama doing their best to cover their hitters and pick that ball up if they can.
Thompson, off of the deflection, ends the run. Take a look at the total number of blocks for both teams. That has been something Mississippi State has excelled at in recent years. Top 5 in each of the last 3 seasons. Number 4 entering today. 1 block for the Tide through 2.5 sets. Shackelford goes cross court and picks up her 2nd kill.
That swing right there, I think, was an opportunity for Alabama to try to get another block on the board, but they don't. Shackelford just swings right between the blockers. And that's something at this point in the season you want to see your blockers figuring out the chemistry and the timing and spacing.
Blagojevich roll shot, catches a lot of Repetti. Speaking of catching a lot, Repetti digs it out, and it leads to AG tooling the block for the kill.
AG finishes the point, but wow, Repetti keeping it alive twice with great defensive moves right there. I mean, that reaction just to keep the ball alive, that was beautiful execution and beautiful defense.
Blagojevich near the pin, drops in a wedge shot.
She's had a few heavy swing kills so far tonight. That time mixed it up, went for the tip, and you saw no one was near that for the Tide. And that's the magic of mixing up your shots, making sure the other team's defense never knows what you're going to come at them with.
Blagojevich wide on the serve attempt.
That's a 4th service error for Mississippi State tonight. Still 6 fewer than Alabama's had. But definitely something both teams want to limit towards the end of sets when it's time to execute, time to finish.
Schmidt near the pin. AG for the tie. Smith. Bertucci goes down, keeps it afloat. Palmer ends the rally.
What a great whole team effort there, and Bertucci with the diving dig towards the end of that rally. She's done such a great job for this Alabama team against LSU just a few days ago, just a week or 2 ago. Had her season high 29 digs. She's really done a great job not just getting the libero jersey and taking that libero position for the Tide and getting comfortable in it, but continuing to work on and improve her game all season long.
Timeout expended by Julie Doherty-Dennis, her first of this third set. They're leveled at 20 apiece. Over name and most marketable name ever. If the Kool-Aid guy wasn't wearing a Kool-Aid McKinstry jersey, I don't know what the VPs of Kool-Aid were doing if that wasn't the case, but some of the last notable nuggets when Mercer battled Alabama.
Speaking of a battle, it's 20-all here in Foster Auditorium, and I mentioned earlier, Casey, these little 5-point games that oftentimes players will use to motivate throughout a match and to focus throughout a match. This is truly a game to 5 right now to end this set. Game to 5, win by 2. Both teams gonna do what they can to finish out this set.
Service error from Keyshot. In a spot like this where you enter these final 5 points tied at 20 apiece, what's that mini game to play such a really close ending stage of a set like?
The number one thing being the set, you know it works. They've got 20 points up on the board so that they know what's been successful, what scored points. And the other thing is control what you can control. Right there, we just saw Alabama miss a serve. Serving the ball in is something they can totally control. And then get aced. And not letting the ball hit the floor off the serve is another thing that these players are totally capable of controlling. At a certain age, maybe not. At this level, 100% just letting the ball drop. That is controllable. That's what the Tide needs to do right now.
Definitely drawing the iron of Rashinda Reed. She uses her first timeout late stage of this third set. As we take a look at some of the numbers for Mississippi State defensively, they went to the portal and grabbed a couple blockers over the last couple seasons. Rebecca Walk a few years ago being the biggest highlighted transfer in the middle. And it's definitely been a defensive juggernaut that the Bulldogs have been able to put together over the last handful of years. This year specifically.
Hitting preceding that, hitting 303. But Mississippi State only looking stronger defensively as the match continues. They've got 6 blocks right now, which is pretty close to that 2.5% average. They're at 2% right now. Alabama's got to find a way to respond to Mississippi State's defense and try to win this serve and pass game that Mississippi State is definitely winning if we're just talking about this mini set to 5 or game to 5 to end this third set.
The Bulldogs entering today have won 4 straight against the Tide. Alabama took set 1, Mississippi State set 2. They're 3 points away from taking this third set. Kaylee Palmer trying to do her part to make sure that doesn't happen. Carly Schmidt does her part to make sure it does.
What a great down the line swing from Carly Schmidt. She did what's called a thumb up shot, so her body language said I'm hitting cross court, but what she did at the last second with her wrist and just a flick of her hand is turn that ball down the line.
Campbell, this is to end the run. She does just that. It's a 3-0 Bulldogs run before the Campbell kill. It's her 7th.
No surprise. Chase Campbell is who the Tide looks to in that moment, really needing a point. She's been a leader for this team all season, has been really clutch in close matches.
She started every match for the Tide over the last 3 seasons. Only member of this Alabama program to start every match. Schmidt climbs the ladder. AG goes down the meter. Schmidt again. Too much for Thompson to handle. Set point Bulldogs.
Schmidt totally turning and swinging to the opposite spot on the court. She had a down the line kill, that time a sharp cross kill. She's doing a great job of taking advantage of what's in front of her. Beautiful shot.
Rashinda Reed burns her final timeout in a crucial spot in this third set.
This moment right here, Coach Reed definitely during this timeout is going to encourage her players just to pass the ball, give their offense an opportunity to score. but what a great swing from Schmidt. That is something that's just tough to respond to, tough to defend. And look at this hustle to keep that ball alive out of Mary Neal.
Both Neal and Schmidt in year 2 playing for Mississippi State. Neal a sophomore, Schmidt a second-year transfer. And that's something that Julie Doherty-Dennis mentioned when asked about what she looks for in transfer outside hitters, specifically the long arms. You hear the term heavy arms and heavy swings, and then there are the long arms that she definitely likes to recruit. Carly Schmidt and Amina Shackelford as the 2 most notable outside hitter transfers who have that long arm profile. And you mentioned Schmidt's toolkit, being able to change things up down the line, definitely being able to play a factor in this 3rd set.
For sure, and you can even see both teams kind of have both offensive styles out of their outside hitters. Agee and Schmidt kind of being similar pins for the Tide and for State. And then Bolgovich and Thompson being those heavier swings. They've kind of got a similar mojo going on.
Harness serving for set point for the Bulldogs. Thompson runs into the block. What else is new? Rebecca Walk gives Mississippi State a 2nd consecutive set win. The Dogs are a set away from a 5th straight dub over the Crimson Tide. Set 4 comes your way next.
That last set ending, the scoreboard said 25-21, but at one point it was 20-20 going into the end of that set, which just tells you how competitive this match has been and how much it's been about who can just find a way to win at the end of sets. Alabama was able to do it during the 1st set, but the 2nd and 3rd, have gone towards Mississippi State. It's just been a little extra push. To me, it looks like who believes they're going to win. Mississippi State, these last 2 sets have looked like they really believe they're going to win at the end of these last couple sets.
Lane, you had mentioned the high hitting percentage. That's still the case for both teams. Bama just under 300, Mississippi State just over 400. And you kind of attributed it to the defense in the middle, not exactly picking up as many blocks as they should. What have you noticed about the middle play since the 1st set and a half, specifically on the defensive end?
I mean, gosh, Mississippi State's middles are just playing lights out, 11 kills apiece. That's crazy to say. It's crazy to say for one middle. It's so crazy to say for both, for 2 of them. And Alabama's middles are really just kind of trying to get started a little more. It feels like Campbell's got 7 kills. She's improving, becoming more and more a part of the offense. She's a player who usually...
Towns off the slide, works the block to her favor.
That was a great swing by Towns. Speaking of middles, getting involved offensively to start the set for Alabama.
Francesca Bertucci, the former MAC Defensive Player of the Year, and her 2nd year with the Tide. Agee roll shot, turn back. Blagojevich from that back row. Walk. She's been on fire tonight, 11 kills. Nice layout from Yates to keep the play going, and Schmidt ends the rally with a kill.
That was a great rally to start at the beginning of the set right there. Mississippi State walking away with the point, really just out of willpower, continuing to swing. Schmidt finding a hole down the line. But both teams playing some good defense, being scrappy, making quick adjustments, quick reads.
Campbell off hands. She continues to pick up where she left off. 8th kill for Campbell.
Both points for the Tide on the board right now from their middle hitters, their middle blockers hitting the ball. Kayla Keyshock at the service line.
Win or lose for Alabama, you have to figure that Rashinda Reed is going to look at the numbers and wonder what went wrong on the line. 12 errors now for Alabama's serve. Palmer. Harness wasn't able to get it cleanly down. Yates couldn't pull it up. And Kaylee Palmer continues to attack the board.
That was a great and a timely point for the Tide, who are trying to see if they can build momentum here in this fourth set and take another set, send it to 5. A big part of that is going to be how well can Kayla Keyshock mix up her offense and give different hitters different looks. Continue to keep Mississippi State's defense on their toes, not knowing where she's going to go, who's going to take the next swing.
Just as a reminder for those who are new to college volleyball, if this does go to a 5th set, it would be played the 15, win by 2. Same as the regular sets, win by 2. Arissa Smith trying to make sure that this does not go to a 5th set. Number 3 gets the 3rd kill for the Bulldogs here in set 4.
We've talked a lot about hitting percentage for both teams and haven't talked enough about the setters. Cece Harness doing a beautiful job running the offense for Mississippi State and giving her hitters good opportunities to swing in their sweet spot, in their zone.
And Lane, that is something that Julie Doherty-Dennis has done over the last couple of years. She's gone to the transfer portal in this new age of the transfer portal where you're able to plug and place players that you may have lost or players who are no longer with the program. Last year, Alexa Fortin-Godey and Emily Orther both had high numbers of assists in that setter position. This year went back to the portal with Harness coming out of North Texas. As we take a look at some of the transfers for Mississippi State, 6 of them for this upcoming year, or this current year, with the aforementioned Harness. And Mele Koral Blagojevich, who's on the service line. And she's got an ace. Second on the Sooners last year in aces. She's got another one tonight.
That was a great topspin serve again. Really giving Alabama's back line some problems tonight. And I've spoken about it before, and I'll say it again. The serve-pass game really can be the decider for every match at every level.
Schmidt off hands. Palmer, heavy shot, dug out by Yates. Down the middle, Towns. Yates goes down to dig it out. Thompson to end the rally, does just that.
Beautiful deep corner shot for Thompson. Evens the score up at 5 apiece here in the 4th set. What a great job in the middle of that rally. She's pretty far off the net, taking that swing out of system, but finds open court.
Low line drive serve. Rapetti gets it over. Thompson, little push shot. He showed off the fastball velocity, drops in a changeup for a kill.
That's right. You see she goes up, and that set wasn't quite there where she wanted it, so she goes to that just open middle of the court, out of reach of the Mississippi State defenders.
16 kills for Thompson. That matches a season high that she set at Auburn in late September. Smith works the block going at Thompson.
That was a great swing by Smith, going behind her setter there for the slide approach. These teams really just swapping kills right now, showing off their different offensive weapons.
Smith goes at AG, almost miscommunicated, and there's Towns.
I think that ball landed 8 feet into the Mississippi State court, and there was no block up because I think no one expected Towns to go up and swing on that, coming from the right pin all the way into the center of the court to take a swing on that ball.
Schmidt. AG tools the block.
Great swing by AG. Great job tooling that block. And I'm going to say this, that ball ricocheted off of the block straight over to us.
Oh, I was hoping we'd have a video
I was
replay.
hoping we were in that. We're definitely.
I was pausing there to make sure that the video could back it up. What's that saying? Pictures or it doesn't count or it didn't happen? Well, in this case, it'd be videos or it didn't happen. Walk with the overhand finish. Rebecca Walk putting on a clinic. That's her 12th kill.
That was a great job by Mississippi State, taking advantage of the free ball that Alabama had to send over. You see their Walk just swung straight in front of her. That right there is a swing that Coach Reed really hopes her block picks up going forward.
2 players, 1 on each side, has matched the season high in kills. Thompson, as mentioned a moment ago, and Walk now with 12. Point goes to Mississippi State on the 4th touch by the Tide.
A little bit of a miscommunication there on the Crimson Tide side to end that point. That's frustrating, especially at this point in the season when you want your players flowing so well together that there's very few of those.
Little dump over the top, and Kayla Keyshock has utilized that tool set tonight, that little dump from close in that setter position, her 4th kill.
Kayla Keyshock has seemed hesitant to do that earlier on in the season, but tonight really has seen a ton of success with it. I think she's gotten a kill every time she's gone for the dump.
Shackelford hit the antenna.
Out of system play there. Shackelford tried to bring that ball back in for her team, but that play really got out of sorts starting with the pass, which speaks to the tough serves of Francesca Bertucci.
Shackelford. Campbell for the lead, little dump shot, and Yates was there to make sure that didn't drop in. Schmidt denied. Not that time.
That time Alabama's block called in the net. Regardless, Schmidt showing off her athleticism, trying to take care of that ball for her team. Alabama needs to find a way to stay disciplined, stay competitive, and win those long rallies, those tougher rallies where the ball's back and forth a lot.
Campbell. Oh, a fastball that Yates took a big brunt of. Shackelford off a deflection.
Going down the line, Shackelford again getting a kill there. She's done that before in this set. Those down the line shots are tough to defend.
She's been held in check for the most part. If that was just her 3rd kill of the evening. Blagojevich in close, dumps it over the top. And a timeout utilized by Rashinda Reed. Mississippi State trying to make sure this doesn't go 5 sets. They're currently up by 1 on the home side. Carly Schmidt is doing her best Clubber Lang impersonation, clubbing it all over the floor right now with the match-high 13 kills for the Bulldogs, trying to do her part to make sure that Mississippi State does not play into a 5th set. Lane, you've mentioned her tool set, being able to go down the line and cross court. What have you really noticed in this 4th set?
The biggest thing I've noticed on this whole night has been how well she's adjusted to what's being given to her. As an outside, she gets all the junk balls. She gets every set that Newsom doesn't know, Harris doesn't know what to do with. And she's done a great job taking care of the ball.
Blagojevich runs into the block of Campbell.
Alabama needed that, needed to get that going. That's their 2nd block tonight. Great job by Chase Campbell getting all the way out there, closing to her outside blocker.
Walk. Long on the bid, long and wide. She's matched the season high 12 kills, aiming for her 13th. There's Keyshock, one of 3 Alabama-born players on the Tide roster. Campbell dumps it over the top. And the point does go to the Bulldogs off the illegal hit from Campbell.
That's not something you see super often, but the referee there, the official choosing to call for a ball handling error, that is up to the referee's discretion.
Referee Darren Clark. Gigi Prito is the second ref tonight. Palmer goes wide.
Palmer that time trying to find open court, sharp cross, missed a little deep in the court. It looked like she made contact with the ball a little bit behind her head, not quite out in front of her where she likes to.
Service error compounded for Yates. 19 combined service errors for both teams with that last misfire from Yates.
Yeah, I don't know what other to say other than that's not good. It's not great.
If you remember, too, you wouldn't have thought 19 service errors between the two teams would have been the case with Sophie Agee's 4 straight aces to begin the match. That's just how the complexion has gone since the early stage of set 1.
That's right. You want that ace to error ratio to be about 1-to-1 if you're a competitive serving team. Right now, Alabama's got 13 errors, 8 aces. So not quite 1-to-1 like they want it to be.
Thompson utilizes that block. Number 17 calls her own number, new season high in kills.
Paris Thompson really has gotten a lot of the swings tonight, gotten a lot of the junk balls, and just is finding ways to score for her team. That's something that she's done a really good job at all season, but even still has been improving in.
Low line drive serve, more. There's Blagojevich finishing it on the other side.
I compared earlier Thompson's hitting style to Blagojevich hitting style, and that right there is a great example. They both just came with heavy arm swings and powered their way through the block.
Very rich athletic background for Mele Coral Blagojevich. Father and an uncle who played college football and is Redondo Union High School's single season leader in aces. There's an ace to continue on her tally tonight, her 3rd. Towns goes up and makes sure nothing else progresses.
Beautiful swing from Towns, just right in front of her. That's tough to defend. If you don't get that ball up with the block, you're almost never going to get it as a back row defender unless you just happen to be standing right there.
Harness off the set and close. Schmitz goes at Bertucci. Thompson long. But off of the deflection, the Tide are able to level it back up.
And that time, no challenge call once again. That ball going off the hand of Smith.
Schmidt. Thompson with a curveball. It finds a blank space.
Beautiful roll shot out of Thompson. Just out of reach for McKenna Yates. Gives Tide the point and the lead here in set 4.
Timeout taken by Julie Dorothy-Dennis, her first timeout of set 4. Be sure to join us for next week's featured SEC volleyball. volleyball matchup. The Florida Gators, winners of 7 straight, led by sophomore All-American Kennedy Martin, invade Neville Arena to battle the Auburn Tigers on AU's senior night. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern on the SEC Network. It was announced earlier this week, Kennedy Martin is a finalist for the AVCA Division I Player of the Year, was a freshman, second-team All-American last year in her first year in Gainesville. Led the Gators with 16 kills against these Alabama Crimson Tide on Sunday a few days ago. Florida currently embattled with Missouri and Columbia in a top 25 matchup. Should be a very interesting race for the top of the SEC standings. Alabama not in the top 5 of the SEC standings. Both Florida and Mizzou are in the top 5. They have split sets in Columbia. The updated score from Como. As we look at the bottom of the SEC standings, both Mississippi State and Alabama aiming to do their part to climb out of the cellar before the end of the SEC slate comes to an end. Should be interesting with not only Vanderbilt joining the SEC for volleyball. Kill, that's her 14th.
Schmidt does such a great job of making contact with that ball at the top of her jump, at the peak of her approach. That's why she's able to hit it at a trajectory where it lands, I mean, really anywhere she wants on the court, but in that instance, not even 10 feet into the court.
Thompson goes right at that back line and Neal. She's been doing her part to make sure this goes into a 5th set.
We've seen it before, and right there we see it again. Paris Thompson with a beautiful deep corner swing to keep the Tide alive.
Arnis off the set. Schmidt works the block and tools it to her favor. We're leveled back up at 18.
The Alabama block, I feel like, doing a better job of getting in front of Mississippi State's hitters, but not finishing the technique of really good blocking in order to put that ball back down into the Mississippi State court. That's why you see that 7 blocks for Mississippi State versus only 2 for the Tide so far today.
Towns climbs the ladder and answers the occasion.
That was a great swing by Towns. If you watch her approach, she swings in front of her setter, Kayla Keshok, but she started her approach behind the setter. All these different approaches and footworks are all about confusing the opponent's defense and keeping them guessing.
Shackelford. Here's Walk. Campbell. AG cross court goes off Blagojevich.
What a great rally. And can we talk about the defense from Alabama? The beginning of that rally, it felt like State was just taking heavy swing after heavy swing, and Alabama was just trying to keep the ball alive. As soon as they had an opportunity to start swinging back, they did, and what a beautiful point that was. That's what you want out of November SEC play.
Schmidt goes long from the row, and the Tide are 4 points away from taking set 4, and it forces Julie Darty-Dennis to burn her final timeout.
It's now 21-18 here in the 4th set. Both teams still very much in it. Alabama has the momentum a little bit right now, but can't get too comfortable. Has to continue to take care of what they can take care of and control what they can control.
Be sure to join us every Saturday with Marty and McGee with the entire SEC Nation, getting you ready for football with game previews and the latest news from across the conference that just means more. Join them tomorrow from Sanford Stadium in Athens for number 6 Tennessee, battling 11th ranked Georgia at 7:30 Eastern on ABC, followed by a 2-hour Georgia Tears and Kirby Smart's Bulldogs in a new look SEC. The two new teams, Oklahoma and Texas, have made their presence felt at some point over another. Texas top 5 in the AP rankings. Could you imagine Texas and Oklahoma in your time in the SEC being in the SEC and not just being a possible, a non-conference match, but could you imagine going to both Austin and Norman in SEC matches? I feel like that'd be pretty fun to see.
I mean, I'm going to answer this from the perspective of a volleyball player for sure, with Texas being such a dominant volleyball program and back-to-back national championship winners. It would have been really exciting, for sure. It would have been really, really cool. I'm glad they're in the SEC now.
Should be a lot of excitement in a couple days with the two-time defending national champs, the aforementioned Texas Longhorns, taking on these Crimson Tide. AG. Oh, what a layout from Yates to keep the play going. Campbell mistimes her jump, but just gets it over. Walk. AG off the block. Terrorizing her former team. She's in double digits.
That was a great, great rally and whole team effort out of both teams on both sides of the net. Beautiful backcourt defense. You know, we talked a lot about the front row players, but Francesca Bertucci and McKenna Yates have done a great job captaining their respective teams' defenses tonight.
Oh, AG drops the hammer.
That is how you take advantage of an overpass right there. Great job by AG, staying patient at the net, disciplined at the net, making sure she didn't commit a net violation as she swung away at that ball.
Blagojevich, they need this. Oh, she unleashed a fastball right to Bertucci.
That was a great cross-court swing. I mean, I talk about it sometimes as the level of play continues to rise, defense becomes as much about getting to the hit as getting hit as a defensive player. Sometimes you just need to be in the line of fire, and Bertucci was that time, but didn't quite get the ball up.
AG's been firing away. She's got the Tide within a point from making this a 5-set match.
She'll head back to the service line with 13 kills on the night.
And a service error, just could not get that over the top.
That'll send Mary Neal back to the service line, hoping to keep her team alive in this set and in this match as well.
Thompson works the block. We're playing a 5th set here inside Foster Auditorium.
New career
as well.
Lots on the line for both teams in terms of the all-time series, and with SEC standing implications as well. Alabama has dropped 4 straight matches to these Bulldogs, and entering today had lost 12 consecutive sets. They're eyeing their first win against Mississippi State since February 27th of 2020. Chase Campbell is the only remaining player on this Tide team that was on Alabama's roster when they last defeated Mississippi State. Meanwhile, the Bulldogs, after winning 3 straight games a couple of weeks ago, have dropped their last 2. They're vying to get back in the win column. 3 matches below 500. Spurs have been a big part of both teams' identity this season. Melee Corral Blagojevich out of Oklahoma. Set to begin this 5th set. AG close to the pin. Kept alive. Harness and Blagojevich kept it going. Schmidt. Nice layout efforts on that back end. Lindsey Brown, in her first appearance, keeps the point alive for Bama to finish it off.
We talked about that blocking column being a stat discrepancy for these teams. Mississippi State with 7 on the match so far. Alabama just now getting their 3rd to win the first point of this 5th set. If they can get that blocking together, that could be the difference maker here in set 5.
Schmidt turned back. Thompson. Oh, she finishes another. Continues to add to her season total of 22.
What a great sharp cross swing. Those are tough to defend. There's not much Mississippi State could do there. Alabama takes a 2nd point of this 5th set.
For those who are new to college volleyball and those who are just now tuning in, Alabama jumped out to an early 1-0 lead. Their first set victory against Mississippi State in 4 years. The Bulldogs took sets 2 and 3. And Sophie Agee, the former Bulldog, helped Alabama seal that 4th set to force this best of 15, set 5. Smith off the slide is denied. Schmidt close to the pin, works the block.
What a great tool for Schmidt, taking advantage of the Alabama block, the edge of that block, and forcing that ball out of bounds. That was a beautiful swing to get the first point on the board for Mississippi State in this set.
17 kills for Carly Schmidt, 2 off of tying her season high. Thompson. Campbell in close, dunks it down.
Chase Campbell again showing up for her team when it matters most. That swing just comes off her hand so fast and finds floor. Malia Moore checks back in, the serving specialist for Alabama.
High octane moments for the senior out of North Carolina. Her 2nd match of the season, long on the serve. She's had an impact on both sides. Rashinda Reed has got her challenge card out. You do get a challenge if matches do go to a 5th set. Coach Reed utilizing said challenge to take a look at the placement of that last serve.
Malia Moore trying to get that last couple inches of the court with a tough float serve. That's always the goal. So we're going to be looking to see, did the ball get any piece of the line? If it did, that ball is in. Look at where it lands. Oh gosh, that looks to me like it is in. The fact that we can't see the white line from this angle. And that call is over. They put that ace in the stat book for her. I believe that's her 2nd of the night. And just caught the line there, bringing the score to 4-1.
Harness. Schmidt was there to make sure that got over. Schmidt. Towns is sent back. Rebecca Walk checks in here in this 5th set, a new season best, 13 kills.
Like you said, 13 kills. We've talked about her offensively, but defensively there, showing up for her team with that block. Towns was up at the net, and the only person between her and open court was that block from Walk. You know you're in a 5-set match when every couple points players are having to stop to mop up sweat. They've been going at it, just working really hard for over 2 hours now, trying to get this win.
Walk dumps it over the top.
That overpass forced by the tough serve from Harness brings the score to 3-4. Alabama is still in the lead. Mississippi State clawing their way back in.
The two teams will swap lengths of the court once one hits 8 points. Thompson works off a deflection.
That was a great cross-court swing from Thompson, who's just had so much success tonight. I mean, that's, I believe, her 23rd kill of the night. She's hitting .444. And Keshak just keeps giving her good opportunities to swing.
Shackelford, she's been held quiet tonight. Under 5 kills for the Butler transfer. They call her number again. Bertucci meets her. Walking close. Thompson is denied.
Huge block there from Rebecca Walk to finish that point. That was a great play out of Mississippi State's defense. Look at the way that ball, I mean, there's just nothing that Alabama's players can do to try to cover their hitter when the ball comes off the block that quickly.
Towns. On the approach, Newsom. And off a block. State ties it up at 5.
Mississippi State's block really being what's keeping them here in this set. Ties the score back up 5-5.
Early in the match, it was both middle block units putting up the high numbers. Without the high number of blocks, it's been Mississippi State's defense that has showed up. Blagojevich for the lead. Towns off of Yates. Bama recaptures the advantage.
Again, Towns going behind her setter with that slide footwork. You see she did that thumb down swing, meaning she turned her wrist, her thumb down towards the ground as she swung on that ball. That put side spin on it to force it to go down the line for the kill.
Blagojevich close to the pin, runs into the block, and Alabama runs into a multi-point lead.
We've talked about the Mississippi State block, but that a timely block coming from Jordan Towns on the Alabama side. That brings them to 4 total blocks on the match.
Blagojevich runs into a wall. Towns. Yates was there. Jousting close, it goes to Bama. Keshak was there to climb the ladder, and both sides swap lengths of the court at 8.
I know you mentioned this earlier, but this is a game to 15, win by 2. And as soon as a team reaches 8 points, the team switch sides of the net. But there's no break here unless a coach calls a timeout. They immediately get back on the court. Oh, but it looks like Coach Darty Dennis has called a timeout on the Mississippi State side. Wants an opportunity to have a conversation with her team, slow this set down a little bit.
Alabama on the verge of snapping a season-long 5-match losing streak, barring a Mississippi State comeback as we take a look at the upcoming Crimson Tide schedule. Arguably the biggest and most important match in program history upcoming on Sunday. The first nationally televised matchup for the Crimson Tide against Texas, the 2-time defending national champions, in their first matchup against Alabama as members of the SEC. South Carolina, Ole Miss, and LSU close out the slate for Alabama in the 2024 season. All finished 2 matches below 500 entering today, can do wonders to get to that 500 mark.
This has been a competitive 5 sets here. Alabama with the momentum right now. Mississippi State trying to use this timeout to slow this 5th set down.
It's been since February 27th of 2020, the last time the Crimson Tide upended the Bulldogs. 4.5 years since Bama found victory against Mississippi State. 7 points away from picking up a win against their longtime conference foes. Blagojevich, cross court wide.
I think that was the right idea. I think that was the right swing. She just missed a few feet outside of the net. You know that's frustrating as a hitter when you're executing the game well. You have the right idea. You had open court if the ball had only landed in the court. Coach Darty Dennis again having a conversation with her team as the score now extends to 9-5, Alabama in the lead. I'm sure having a conversation about taking care of the basics, going back to the most basic aspects of the game. And right now, Alabama being at the service line, Coach Darty Dennis reminding her team that every point starts with a pass. And when you're in serve receive, you want it to start with a good pass so your setter has the opportunity to run your offense, like CeCe Harness has done such a great job of so far this evening.
We looked at the Alabama schedule, the upcoming Mississippi State schedule. They continue their 3-match road trip, and the volleyball's version of the Egg Bowl in Oxford against Ole Miss on Sunday. That's at noon first serve. Does not get much easier for Coach Darty Dennis's side, matching up against 13th ranked Kentucky and 25th ranked Missouri. Two-time in a couple weeks' time, I should say. Been an interesting year in the SEC, to say the least. Not many people would have expected the 2-time defending national champions to be below 500 in year 1 of their new conference. And for Mizzou, a team that has been below 500 in 4 of the last 5 seasons, to be contending for that top spot. No surprise, Kentucky's at the top of the SEC again, but definitely a lot more parity in the conference that just means more this season.
Absolutely. The sport of volleyball as a whole is growing and growing in the Southeast, which is great for all these schools recruiting-wise. But you mentioned it earlier, the transfer portal, I've heard a coach describe it as just the new reality. And it creates so much opportunity for teams to improve drastically year over year.
Towns off a block. Shackelford keeps it alive. AG again off a possible miscommunication, a possible slip as well. Blagojevich hammers it wide, and Bama is 5 points away from ending a 5-match losing spell.
That was a second hitting error in a row for Blagojevich. Going for the same shot, trying to execute the same game plan, but missing again wide.
Thompson's had a season best 23 kill nights. Blagojevich has turned back.
Again, the block showing up for the tie just on time. It's seemingly been just a mystery why Alabama couldn't get their block in the right place throughout this match, but now they already have 2 in this 5th set. That time, Kayla Keyshock doing a great job of getting in front of her hitter, setting up that block and pressing back across the net into Mississippi State court.
Technically, what's been different, Lane, about the Alabama block? We've talked about the Alabama block not getting the defensive numbers as they have the offensive numbers, but in this 5th set, it looks from a complexion standpoint that the block is really showing up defensively.
You know, the block is showing up 100%, and they're just playing really scrappy. To me, the biggest difference, I know you asked for technically, but right now what I'm seeing is just Alabama looks like they have more of a will to win every single point and overall to win this match. There were a few points earlier on in the match, specifically in that 2nd and 3rd set, where I thought Mississippi State just looked like they believed they could win more. They believed they would win more. Right now, it's the opposite. The Tide looks like they just know they've pressed it to the 5th set, that they have the opportunity and the ability to win this match. Because you see their hitting percentage right now in this current set, Alabama's hitting .095. That is better than Mississippi, who they've held to -125. But still, their hitting percentage isn't just outstanding right now in this current set, which speaks to me just the willpower, the sheer will to win being what's driving them in this set so far.
No timeouts left for Mississippi State the remainder of the set. One thing to keep in mind, Alabama still has both of its timeouts remaining if they choose to use them. A 6-0 Bama scoring run. Paris Thompson has been on the service line for all 6 points. The Notre Dame transfer in year 1 in the SEC has a chance to further increase the Bama lead. AG. Ariana Beckham, her first set played. Keyshot gets the point off the net violation.
Coach Darty Dennis, it looks like he's going to grab the challenge card there. Oh, but she puts it back. Yeah, that point right there, that was a smart move by Kayla Keyshot to go for the dump, to take care of that ball, put it away, but it did look like something hit the net as the ball traveled across.
Shackelford, they need this. They don't get it.
That's a 3rd block in this 5th set. A 6th block on the night for the Tide. Beautiful job by Jordan Towns. She's reaching out there, floating to the pin to close that block.
A shank pass from Towns ends an 8-0 Bama scoring run and keeps Mississippi State alive in this 5th set.
Looks like a little bit of a miscommunication there on the Alabama side. It'll give Mississippi State the opportunity to serve.
AG into the seats. The former Bulldog has brought Alabama the match point against her former team.
What a great swing from Sophie Agee. She's patient as that set travels all the way across the court to get to her and just hammers that ball cross court.
Jousting close, Campbell finishes. Alabama turns the tide. For the first time in 4.5 years, the Crimson Tide defeat the Bulldogs, and they snap a 5-match losing streak in the process.
What a great game all around from both teams, showing off what they can do offensively, defensively, how they've grown throughout this season. That's some high-level SEC play here towards the end of the season.
And how fitting is that? Chase Campbell is the only remaining Alabama player on the roster. The last time they defeated State in February of 2020. She finishes the match with her 10th and final kill. That'll do it for us from Foster Auditorium in Tuscaloosa. The Crimson Tide get it done over the Bulldogs. For Lane Rizzo and our entire SEC Network crew, I'm Casey Roll saying so long from Tuscaloosa, where Alabama takes this in 5 sets, 3 sets to 2.